It is the 31st century, and mankind is once again at war. The battlefields of the future are dominated by huge robotic war machines known as battlemechs.
In June of 3029, the 41st Avalon harassers arrived on the planet of David. By the end of July, the battle was over. The 9th Dirians were pushed back to their dropships. When the Dirians arrived on David, they had ferried both themselves and the Brion's Legion mercenaries. Additionally, the Dirians had brought with them extra dropships to enforce a heavy blockade of the system. Until the harassers had arrived in their entirety, the blockade had held. Unlike the regulars, the harassers did not have an abundance of dropships. They focused instead on making planetfall, and this worked against them. With so much cargo space available to the survivors, the 9th Regulars were able to quickly load and blast off. The few space assets scrambled against them were unable to keep the invaders from escaping, and once close enough to their jump ships, age-old rules of war meant that naval units chasing them were forced to turn back. The war for David had come to an end. The conflict on David was a tiny spark in the massive fire that was the Fourth Secession War. Still, its effects would ripple through for decades to come. The Invaders. The Brion's Legion had failed in their attempt to defeat and capture Marshal Petrov Haveson. Worse, their leader, Pythonist Brion, had been killed. When the mercenaries reached the Comstar David HPG facility, a mysterious communication was waiting for Octavius Brion, son of Pythonist Brion and de facto leader of the Legion. The offer to buy out the Legion's contract came directly from one Anastasius Vogt. The newly elevated Colonel Octavius Brion was offered a choice: agree to Comstar's terms and not only be saved, but also have their force brought back up to full regimental strength, or turn down the contract buyout and take their chances with the Federated Sons militia forces currently at the gates of the HPG building. Even with the low rate of pay, Octavius did not hesitate to sign the 29-year exclusive contract. Once the dust had settled, a small fleet of white dropships bearing the Comstar Starburst arrived on the planet of David and rushed away the mercenaries. The David planetary government, as well as First Prince Hans Davian and Archon Melissa Steiner, objected, demanding the mercenaries be turned over to them, but to no avail. The Legion soon found itself entering the Sol system. The Legionnaire personnel were forcefully enrolled into the ComGuard's Mech Warrior training program, while their lost equipment was replaced with Star League-era battlemechs. Over the course of a decade, the ragged Brion's Legion was expanded into 2 full regiments of highly trained mech warriors equipped with some of the most powerful battlemechs in the Inner Sphere. While they were never fully incorporated into the ComGuard, instead preferring their lance-based organizational structure, they did gain the trust of Comstar. In early 3052, the aging Octavius Brion was informed that his legion would be assigned to the Terran Defense Force as part of the Sol Star System Home Guard. When the armies of Comstar lifted to their date with destiny on the back world of Tukiad, the cradle of humanity was entrusted to the Brion's Legion. In 3058, the 29-year contract ended and the Brion's Legion left Comstar. They struck out on their own, determined to remove the stain of cowardice that had followed the unit ever since their defeat on David so many years before. With the training of the ComGuards in Star League era and even some clan-grade battlemechs, they largely succeeded. They fought with distinction in several conflicts. The Jihad took its toll on the Legion, just as it did the rest of the galaxy. Their 2nd Regiment was shattered on Illyrian Alliance world in 3074. The ComGuard had taken the cowardly flower sniffers and reforged them into a fighting force to be reckoned with. The attack on David had been the brainchild of warlord Vasily Shcherenkov. The choice had not been altogether a military one. Shurinkov had committed his troops just as much to deny their use to others in the Combine military as much as he wanted to conquer the planet of David. Vasily Shurinkov, while not a fool, was also not a brilliant military commander. His favorite and only real tactic was to overwhelm his enemy by outnumbering and outclassing them so badly they had no real chance. This tactic had worked very well for him in the past, and so he felt no need to oversee the campaign personally. Instead, he placed the 9th Dieron Regulars under the command of General Lisa Montgomery. At the time of the invasion, General Montgomery was very young and inexperienced at leading a campaign the size of the David invasion. She also lacked any experience dealing with mercenary groups. Lisa Montgomery did her best to follow the battle plan set down for her by her warlord. When the strategy started to falter, she attempted to adapt, but Warlord Shurinkov insisted she stick to his plan. If her initiative would have changed anything will remain unknown. Not long after, the Brion's Legion made their ill-fated attempt on Danson's Hill. Even after losing the advantage, Montgomery still prosecuted the war as the warlord directed. Even before the 9th could return to Combine space, Warlord Shurinkov was already looking for a scapegoat. It is still not fully understood how Montgomery managed to emerge virtually blameless. Much of the blame was naturally placed on the Brion's Legion mercenaries, but much dishonor remained. The 9th had lost almost a fifth of its number in the campaign, yet somehow Lisa Montgomery remained in command of the unit and was deployed again in the War of 3039. To say the campaign on David had a profound effect on young Lisa would be an understatement. She distanced herself from Warlord Shurinkov and studied the conflict in great detail in the intervening years. She was determined to learn from her defeat. She concluded her enemy had done all he could to preserve his strength and not permit a standing battle unless he had the advantage. Marshal Haveson had sacrificed important strategic targets and even entire companies of militia forces to preserve his battle mechs. This had led to her defeat. While General Lisa Montgomery studied, Warlord Vasily Shurinkov raged. The warlord had long been at odds with the coordinator's son, Theodore Kurita, and his military reforms. When Theodore Kurita attempted to recognize the former Combine territories as the independent Free Rasselhog Republic in a deal with Comstar, this proved the final straw for Warlord Shurinkov and many old guard military traditionalists. In May of 3034, Warlord Shurinkov partnered with Marcus Kurita to lead an invasion of the Rasselhog Republic. Shurinkov committed several of his best regiments to the invasion, but oddly none of the almost 40 at the time regiments of the Dieron Regulars. This time, the warlord would leave nothing to chance, leading his forces himself. It would prove a fateful decision. In the opening days of the invasion, and far from the front lines, the head of Shurinkov's Atlas burst into flame and exploded. At the time, a mechanical malfunction was blamed. Soon, however, the warlord's aide, Dexter Kingsley, took credit for the assassination of the warlord. When Kingsley met with Theodore in July on Dieron, he expected a reward for killing a rival and traitor. Theodore was unmoved, seeing Kingsley's desire to be appointed warlord, instead having him assassinated in return. At first, the death was ruled of natural causes, but in 3039, the new warlord claimed to have personally killed Kingsley, though most agreed this to be very unlikely. Meanwhile, in 3039, during the 1 year's war, General Lisa Montgomery would have the opportunity to test her theories. In an ironic reflection of the David conflict, the 9th Dieron Regulars would see itself facing off against the Deneb Light Cavalry. This time, it would be the 8th Deneb Light Cavalry, along with their mercenary allies, Redfield's Renegades. Outnumbered, General Lisa Montgomery would attempt to use the tactics that had defeated her all those years ago. Her forces used hit-and-run attacks, refusing to engage in a stand-up fight. She pressed the attack largely at the Federated Sun's units, leaving only the planet's starport as a strong point. At first, things played out just as they did on David. The 9th Dieron Regulars slowly bled the light cavalry and the renegades. However, unlike at Danson's Hill, the two fought together and managed to pin down and surround a full battalion protecting the starport. Further, unlike the Legion had, the renegades did not launch a full frontal attack, instead content to slowly and methodically squeeze the defenders. Lisa Montgomery attempted to break the siege, but when it became clear that doing so would result in massive casualties, she withdrew her forces and continued the hit-and-run tactics. Not taking the bait, the 8th Deneb Light Cavalry and Redfield's Renegades squeezed the pocket of resistance until it eventually burst. The battalion was lost in its entirety. Even after losing a full 1/3 of their number, the hit-and-run tactics continued until Draconis Combine Command became aware of the details of the campaign. Orders were soon issued to withdraw. Fearing the worst, Lisa Montgomery launched a massive attack. Unprepared for the change in tactics, the Deneb Light Cavalry suffered heavy losses as the Dirians withdrew. Lisa Montgomery was called to answer for her actions. General Montgomery explained in great detail her plans, actions, and strategy. She showed that even though she had been outnumbered almost 2-1, she had inflicted heavy losses on both forces opposing her. She even claimed that had she had more time, she would have eventually defeated them both. Her claim of eventual victory may have been somewhat optimistic, but she had inflicted disproportionate casualties on her enemies. Still, the tribunal found that she had acted dishonorably and as a result lost a full 1/3 of her fighting force. They decided her actions were out of cowardice, and this time there would be no mercenaries to lay the blame on. A compromise was reached. She would be allowed to commit ritual seppuku. Her honor and the honor of the 9th would be left intact. In the winter of 3039, General Lisa Montgomery passed her sword to Mao Shinjo. Reportedly, her only words were how the young woman reminded her of herself when she took command. Then she retired and took her own life in the customary way. Not long after, a mysterious package arrived at the main Lutheran Comstar facility. Its exact contents have never been divulged. However, rumor states it contained a letter from General Lisa Montgomery to her once counterpart Marshal Haveson and other artifacts. It remains unclear if Comstar ever delivered the package. Under Mao Shinjo, the 9th Dieron Regulars were rebuilt and deployed to the world of Mulag. When an enemy invasion force appeared in system, Shinjo was so confident of her well-defended positions, she sarcastically wished the invaders luck using whatever force and dislodging them from the planet. The 9th was unprepared for what it faced. Beta Galaxy, Clan Novacat. A full cluster of Novacat Lancers smashed into the 9th in their chosen battlefield of Longstein. Elemental and Striker Trinaries flanked the 9th, the main battle Trinaries charging the 9th head-on. Only the assault elements of the 9th survived to fall back to the planetary capital of Mulag City. The Lancers did not hesitate and chased the 9th through the city streets. The 9th, desperate for escape, attempted to board their dropships and flee, only to find that reserve elements of the Novacats had long ago captured the port, and their dropships were now crewed by Novacat warriors. Caught between the guns of their own dropships and the charging Lancers, Mao Shinjo regretted her boasts as the 9th were given no quarter. Hello, this is Adam of Dream Made Productions. Thank you for watching this video. I would ask, please help me grow this channel by subscribing, liking, leaving a comment, or sharing. I really enjoy bringing you these videos. If you would like to support the channel, I have included some places you can send Bitcoin or other crypto in the description. I have also included a link for PayPal if you would like to support that way. Please know that any amount you give will be cherished and used to upgrade equipment and improve the channel. As of the date of this video, All donations and any funds I can personally put in are being saved towards upgrading to a Canon G50 for HD video. I cannot express how honored I am that so many of you have chosen to watch my content. When I started this adventure, I thought I would just have one sub. Thanks, Mom. But the amount of support I have gotten has exceeded all my expectations. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come.